And even for the front straight, if I'm not at 211, when I cross on the start finish line, automatic restart. That was a good corner. This is promising. We'll fuck it up in the final corner, though. Yep. No, that's actually going to be P1 by a whole tenth. So car setup, a brake bias you would never run. You would never run 5149 in a car like this. That's completely insane. The car is basically a death trap when I step on the brakes. You'd never run that. Brake pressure, that's kind of realistic. Steering settings, super sensitive steering lock, almost F1 car tier wheel range, and I'm not done yet. Let's go options. So we'll go under advanced settings for controller. My throttle sensitivity is at 65, so it's super sensitive. My brake sensitivity is also really sensitive, so I basically don't lose any. I lose as little pedal travel as possible before the brakes really kick in. And I have an upper dead zone on the throttle, so my throttle is basically an on-off switch. Like, I know there's a bit of travel, but like that spike where when I press the throttle and it goes to like here immediately, I'm half throttle right now. So I basically don't lose any throttle travel. So I'm driving almost an on-off switch to maximize on throttle time. Okay? And again, I do that by lowering the upper dead zone, so it's I believe less pedal input to 100%. For example, my pedal is not all the way down right now, but the bar is at 100%. Like, there's still... I'm trying to eyeball this with my foot. Let's say like 3 centimeters before the throttle hits the like the physical end of the pedal travel. So again, throttle is close to an on-off switch. Brakes are super sensitive. We'll go out to car setup. Brake pressure is automatically at 100. Bias is at a completely retarded value that you'd never run in these cars because it's a death trap. And your steering box is basically to be as twitchy as possible with an F1 car. So anyways, welcome to my shitty tutorial of how to run this lap. We'll do chase view because I like chase view. So as you come out of the final corner, I believe you want to be in 4th gear at 211k as you cross the start finish line, and if you're not at that exact speed at that exact time, it's instant restart. Skip forward, I don't really care for straightaways. I'm braking like half a car length after the sector 3 sign, so like where the 75 marker would be. And then, I don't know if I did it this lap. Yep, I did do it this lap. You hook the right side tires. I don't know if you can kind of tell, but there's like 2 parts to this curbing. Thank you, Free Cam, for flying into the void. But there's like the flat part, which is on your left here, and then like your tall part. and you can hook your inside tires on the inside of this tall part, and it like brings the car right around, and it steers the car for you. So I do that for the final half of the corner, and then I basically flick the car on when I get off the curb, the car gets sideways. I flick the car like a rally car backwards and monster truck kind of over the curbs. You can see it's actually laying rubber there. So hooking one curb and then drifting through the second part of the corner, which I don't think you'd want to do in one of these. And then here, of course, I get a little loose and it looks kind of sweet, but it's suboptimal. So we skip through here. Obviously, you want to tuck into this inside curbing. As the nose hits the 100 marker, I jump on the brakes, and I put my left side tires as far as I can onto the rumble strips, because if you can extend the track by 3 feet, you need to. I then monster truck over this curb to the point where this should actually be considered an illegal lap at this point, but Race Room's not coded that way, because technically all my tires are inside the white lines. Now what you might not be able to see on the actual lap video is I'm holding the throttle at like 50% while I'm in the air. Not at 100%, but 50%. And then I just let the car flow out to the track out portion, because you need to be on the throttle all the time when you're fighting over basically inches on a track. So I extend the track again as wide as I can. Again, this is an illegal lap. The game counts it, but this is illegal to any steward, right? So we get going as wide as you can. I could have gone a little wider here. So full throttle through this flowing left-hander. Again, I don't know the corner number, so bear with me here. And to get the car to turn, these cars don't have a locked diff. I believe it's an open diff. So to get the car to turn, I intentionally lift off the gas all the way, and you'll see the car cut here. Right there. And it like instantly reduces its cornering radius, and I essentially straddle the curb. Because for whatever reason this helps turn the car. I don't really know why. I don't really care about the physics behind it, but this works. And it sets you up geometrically for the second part of this corner, and I basically throw the wheel, even though it's already sensitive, and it's like an F1 car steering with a super tight steering box. I throw the car to the right and then hook this curb. Again, I do the same thing. I lift off the throttle to open up the diff, and the car will cut in towards the apex, and I straddle this curb. And then basically about here, I jump back on the throttle and pray, like this is the trial and error part of hot lapping. I pray that the car doesn't run wide here, and if it does, I just restart the lap. So track out limits are like 3 feet more to the left, so I'm like right on the line here. I believe the red and white curbing is considered in bounds. So again, I'm maybe 3 feet from being an illegal lap, but I know that as a driver. So every single lap where I'm on kill, I'm going to be at this part of the track, and if I'm not, I'm fucked. So this is the hardest part of the track for me. This corner is really fun in F1 cars, but not in DTM cars. I don't brake at the 50 board, and I don't brake at the Sector 3 board. I basically guess somewhere in the middle. There's literally no markers around where I can brake here. So I just wing it, and then try and aim. I actually thought during this lap that I fucked up, okay? Because I hit this curb and it unsettled the car. But anyway, I'm doing the same thing here where I'm getting off the throttle all the way to open the diff. The nose will set in a very specific way where it'll cut harder than it usually does. And this is literally just trial and error hot lapping to get that sensation. The nose will cut, and when I feel the nose cut, I get back on the throttle. And right about here. So what happens is, at this point I'm in third gear. Okay? If I leave it in third gear and clip that bump, the car will over rev and it'll hit the chip and I'll lose all my momentum and the lap is over. So what I was doing, I believe, on this lap is I shifted, and you can't see telemetry because it's race room, but I shifted like here. So by the time the gear change actually took effect, the gear switched in the air, and when I landed, I was in 4th gear. This is close too. Again, I go back to what I just taught you guys about the red and white curbing. This right here is in bounds. This tarmac area is not. On any kill lap, I'm going to stretch it as far as I fucking can. Which, in this case, is like 3 feet to the clear. Like, if you think of where those tires are, that's like very close to being illegal. But that's what you have to do in this shit. That's just how you play the game. So, second hardest part of the circuit. If you're not good at braking, this is where you'll fuck it up. I'm braking just after the 100-meter board, so if I'm on a lap, I'll throw it in really deep. If I'm not on a good lap, I would be a bit conservative. But like when the rear bumper, or what I feel is the rear bumper, is in line with the 100 board, that's the way I interpret it in the car anyway. It's more like the front tire here, or maybe even halfway. Jump on the brakes in a straight line, immediately down to second, and again I'm braking on the curbing, which you would not do this. Okay, if you brake on curbing in a real car, all sorts of crazy shit can happen because the textures can be different. You might not have any traction on here and just fucking slide right off, but in race room apparently this works. So you brake as hard and in a straight line as you can, down to second, and then you basically pull the car off the curb and like drift it into the corner. And I actually do a good job of remaining conservative here, but in a lot of prior laps I was drifting through this corner and monster trucking over the curb. And the key thing is here, this is where luck is involved in hot lapping. The way ISI motor games model their curbing is not perfect. I think ACC actually does a really good job of it now, from what I've heard anyway. Basically, when you hit this curb, it is random chance of whether the car is going to settle and you'll get through it fine, or whether the big bump will just throw your car off like crazy. And there's literally nothing you can do other than try and ride it out. And in this case, of course, I hit the bump, it unsettled the car, and I just said fuck it and stood on the gas and laid like, I don't know, 30 feet of skid marks. But yeah, this is the luck involved in hot lapping, is you aim at a curb and you pray you get the lucky bounce. And if you don't, you just restart the lap, because that's hot lapping. And I actually have a really good run out of the corner there, despite the previous lap I'd set that I was chasing for most of the session. I would wiggle out of there, so I knew there was time to gain. But I still didn't have as clean of an exit as I wanted. Here, shittiest part of Sepang, no markers. So I'm flying blind here and just basically guessing at where the braking point is. I could have been out a bit wider. And this corner in particular is where your 5149 bias comes into play, because I'm just cranking the brakes and driving at the curb. And you're hoping for a very specific bounce, because if you hit too much of the curb, you scrub off too much speed. But if you don't hit enough of the curb, you go into the sand. So like you have to hit it at a very specific angle in a very specific slide, and I don't find it very fun, but again, that's hot lapping. And then what I was doing in the cockpit, if we can zoom into my inputs here. No? Yep, kind of. Does that work? Sure. So on exit, I'm literally holding the wheel like at a very specific angle to the right. Right? You're holding the wheel to the right? There you go. And if the car understeers off the track, it's worth another restart. But if it hooks, which it will sometimes, like 30% of the time, you'll end up right here. This point, I cut the car across the track, and this is probably the sketchiest part of the lap. This corner sucks to enter, because you're always going to understeer no matter what line you take. So you have to extend the track as much as possible, which I think I did an okay job of there. And then you essentially just follow the skid marks and jump over this curbing. So that right there is kind of illegal, as per like FIA stewards, but it's not in race room. And then as you jump over this curb, you have to center the wheel and hope that you don't get a cut track penalty there, which I actually did a decent job of. Because before I was actually running wide on this AstroTurf. but I seem to have gotten the line right and the car hooked. And then here again, this is why I'm running 5149 bias. I just shifted to third and jumped on the brakes until the car pointed where I wanted it to go. And this ruined so many laps today, this one corner. But you downshift to third and you get on the brakes super late, and you can already tell, like, when I jump on the brakes here. Travis, is that you?
Me.
Hello. Sorry, I'm filming a hot lap vid / stream. It's fine. So yeah, the 5149 bias makes it so when you align the car with the left side of the track here, it just jumps out on you. And you essentially ride this into the apex in third gear. And then right at the apex, you punch it, and you just pray you don't go in the grass. And in this instance, we were, what's that, like 2 centimeters from the grass? But yeah, if you fuck that up, or you just don't get the absolute perfect line off the corner, your run's over. And then I personally thought I fucked up the hairpin. Oh yeah, one more thing. Entering the hairpin. Let's make the corner wider by driving on the access road, because the FIA would let people do that, right? Yep. Let's see. Yeah, just look at that. That's hot lapping. Sorry, that's hot lapping. They let us drive on the access road for like 10 feet, so I did. And then you can actually fuck this up too. This is modeled as a lip. You can't really tell. Well, you kind of can. But like this little rise here is legit like a jump if you hit it under braking. And I had a really bad entry, and I'm very sorry for that. This is just a bad corner all around. But you know what? It worked. I don't know why, but it did. I got a good run off the corner. But yeah, that's a lap at Sepang in the DTM cars, and that right now is P1.